If you're running a company blog, you probably want every single article to convert into a LinkedIn or a social media post. But in reality, that doesn't really happen the same way consistently, right? Someone has to read the blog, rewrite it, shorten it, and format it specific to LinkedIn, and finally get approval before posting. So what ends up happening is the marketing team spends a lot of time rewriting the post manually, or the post never gets shared. My name is Rishabh, and I'm an AI engineer at True Horizon. And today I'm going to show you an N8N workflow that solves this. Let's get right into building. Here is an N8N workflow, and let's do this from scratch. So let's start with a trigger, something that initiates our workflow. This part, we basically need all of these inputs based on a blog, who is the author, what's the title, what's the content, and you get the idea. So I'm going to click on a plus icon, and for now I'm going to assume that whenever a blog post is created, that would just directly trigger this workflow. So I'm going to select this when executed by another workflow. And now here we have the input schemas. So let me go ahead and add all of those details. Okay, we have all of our inputs squared away. Once this triggers the workflow, it's quite straightforward. We can now start using AI to generate a LinkedIn post. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this and add an AI agent. Now here, I'm going to select that I want to define both the user and the system prompt. Before we go any further, let me add some data in here. So now I'm going to click on that pencil icon, and I'm going to add some data. And this is going to be based on the blog that I've already written. So let's add all of these details in. Okay, there we go. We have actually added the details of that particular blog that we want to run this on. So let's save that, which looks good. Feel free to check out this blog if you're interested about Jira and N8N automation. That we have all of the details here. We have the next step, which is an AI agent, and let's add an AI model. You can feel free to use any chat model. I'm going to use OpenAI. There we go. Now we need to define what would be the user and system prompt. So in the user prompt, it would be quite straightforward. We would just need to provide the AI with details of the title of the blog, the content, as well as the actual URL. But in the system prompt, we need to give it all of the details of what its job, what it's meant to do gives us. And let's open this up. So it's given us a LinkedIn post with a few details about what the article talks about. The next step is sending this off to ClickUp. So let's add an icon. And before we do that, we need to actually create a space or a list where we can send all of this information. So if I go to my ClickUp, I've got a space and I've also got a list within that space. So we would need to create a task in this list and assign it to the person who wrote the blog. So to be able to get all of this information, we need to know who all are present within that space. So there are about 7 people who have access. So let's start from there. Let's get all of the IDs of the people present in this space. And for that, we need to create an ingestion pipeline. So let me add a manual trigger, and let's use the ClickUp's REST API to be able to get those details of all the people, all the members present within a space. So I'm gonna paste and HTTP node with the details of that REST API. And what we need is this URL, and you can get this from the ClickUp documentation. And at the end of this endpoint, we need to enter the space ID of the space that we are looking for. So let me open up ClickUp again. And if I go back to my space, in the URL, you would notice there is an ID here just after the S. We're gonna copy that and paste it right here. Now we also need ClickUp credentials. So in our credential type, you can scroll all the way to find ClickUp. I think I must have already passed it. There we go, ClickUp API. And we need to create a credential. So let's create one right now. It just asks for an access token. Okay, I can't find it. I'll have to generate. So I'm going to generate another API token. Let's paste that in here. Once you click save, it should test the connection and you should get this message if you were able to copy it correctly. Make sure you never share your API tokens, because with that, anyone can use your account through the REST API. Okay, that's great. We have these details and we need to specify some headers. So this allows it to accept data, which is application or JSON. I'm just going to hit execute and you'd see that it gave me one item, which is my rich space. And this has a lot of details. If we hit JSON, you'd be able to see all the different statuses, features, and members as well. Let's store all of the account IDs in a data table. So I'm going to search data table and I'm going to say insert row. Here, I'm going to choose a data table. I'd prepared this one ahead of time, but what this table is basically just with a column for ClickUp account ID and a Blotato account ID, which we would need later, and the name. That's about it. We're going to select that table. And here, what we're going to do is we need to take the ID of each of the members. And we need to do it for as many members that there are, right? So since this returns just one item in which the members is a list, we want to split out the members into 7 different items so that each item runs one time into this insert row. So to be able to do that, I'm going to hit the plus icon and use a node called split out. We're going to need to tell it which field we want to split it. And this is usually a field which is a list. I'm going to just find members and drag that in here. And if I execute this step, you'd notice that now we have only all of the items of the members, but instead of just being one item, we have 7 items. And each of those 7 items will get executed and get inserted one by one at the same time. So what we need here is we need both the name as well as the account ID. And if I execute this, or let me execute this so that this runs 7 times, and now we have inserted all users into our data table. Let's confirm that that actually happened. Open the data table. Yes, we can see the entire team and all of their account IDs now on our data table. Awesome. Next, we're coming back now. We ran AI to create the LinkedIn post, and now we're going to create a task on ClickUp in that specific space, in that specific list. So let's do that. But before that, let's actually set the value of the AI output. So if I run this again, we get a JSON output with this field which says output. So instead of having it generic, let's add a set node or an edit fields node and map this to say article, and the value is whatever's in this output. If you click on it, you'll be able to see that. I'm going to run this as well. Then now we're going to add a task. So I'm going to go to ClickUp and I'm going to search for task, and I'm going to go to create a task. Perfect. So since we added our ClickUp credentials earlier, it auto selects that, and now it's asking us about details. So we have the task resource. What is the name, team name or ID? Let's select True Horizon. And now what is the space? And actually, if you notice, we'd get the drop down and we'll be able to select this right this way. Or alternatively, we can also use the ID from the space. This is easier, so let's do this directly. And in the folder, oops, it does not show a folder. So let's and I think it doesn't have any folders, so I'm going to select this and give the list details and the name. So this would be the name of the task. So let's give it a name which makes sense. I'm going to say, let's add the author. And let's say LinkedIn post, and then we'll also give it the title of the blog for the task. Now we can add additional properties such as who we should assign this to. So assigning names or IDs. And instead of selecting it from the drop down, what I want to do is I want to be able to make sure that based on whoever wrote the article, they would get auto selected. So we have all of that details within our data table now. So before this step, we are going to add a data table, and we're going to do a get operation. We're going to select the table, and we want it to match a specific condition. And I'm going to say that condition is that the name should be equal to the name of the person who wrote the article. So I'm going to drag this here. And now, if this name matches, we want that particular row. So if I execute this, you'll see it picks up all of my details, and now my specific ClickUp account ID is present too. And now that data is coming from here, I can easily access that and assign it as an ID here. So I'm going to click on expression, and you'd notice that it creates this 2 round brackets, which is for a list. So the API by default takes a list so that multiple people can be assigned. In my case, it's just one, so I'm going to just drag that carefully into that list, and that should be perfect. So if I execute this, it says node is executed successfully. And if we head back to our ClickUp, to my particular space, you would notice that now my LinkedIn post has come into this to-do. But where is the actual post, right? I forgot to add that into the description. So let's quickly do that now. As we come back here, we can add another field, and then we can select, I believe it's content. So let's hit content, and here we're going to go back to where we set our variable of the article. I'm going to drag that and put that here. And if I run this again, it would create another task. So before I do that, let me delete this one. And now when I run this and we head back, you would have already seen that, but just refreshing it just in case. And now in the description, you would notice we have the AI generated LinkedIn post. We've got details of a short summary of the article and then a few hashtags and a link to the actual post. Let's confirm that this link really works, and it does. That is good. The article, if we like it, we can go forward with it, or we can just change the entire thing. This sounds good to me. Let me make some more changes. And so once we're done with what we want to post, the next step is to let this trigger anytime again. And there are different ways we can do it. So one way we can do it is through ClickUp triggers. So we're going to hit the plus icon and go back to ClickUp. And instead of ClickUp actions, we're going to go to ClickUp triggers. And now we want it to trigger, let's say, whenever a user changes the status from to do to, say, complete. So it could be in progress, and whenever the user decides that it's complete, that's when we want it to trigger this workflow. So let's do that. We're going to say on task status updated. That sounds the most apt. I'm going to select the team, and I can again here give all those details like the task ID or the space ID. Let's provide it on the list ID. And again, we can find that when we are in our list. If we go to the URL, this one right after the LI is actually the list ID. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it here. And now whenever there's any update to that specific list, it would get triggered into this workflow. So let's test that out. Let's have this execute and let's try changing this to in progress. And if you notice, workflow is executed, it called this trigger, and we got all of the details right here, which includes the task ID, what is the status, let's see what all information we have here. Parent data, before it was in to do, and then afterwards it became in progress. That's what we just changed, and other IDs. So we want this to only trigger when the status is complete. So what we would do is, let's add an if condition. And if the after status, the value of the after status, which in this case is in progress, is actually complete, that's when we need to trigger this. So let's confirm that. Let's change this to complete and check how we get value here. So now that it's triggered, I'll hit complete. Oops, it's gone away, but it's right here. Now if you noticed, it came here, it came to the if condition, and this was successful, so it went to true. and that's where we have this data. And now we have our ClickUp trigger, and now we need to post this data on LinkedIn. So we're going to do that through something known as Blotato. What you'd need to do is you'd need to go to blotato.com. You'd need to log in. And if you go to the settings, you'd be able to link your LinkedIn account with Blotato. I have mine linked right here. And we'd need that account ID as well. So if I just copy this account ID, and I can save it in the database that I had initially. So let me go to my personal space and into data tables, and in my Blotato, let me paste my Blotato account ID. Finally, let me add the Blotato node. You can install this in NA10, and we'll use the create post. This happens only when the condition is true. So, but before we post on Blotato, we need to get the actual content of the post, because through the ClickUp trigger, if you'd notice, we don't get the content itself. So what we would need to do is we'd need to, let's click on the plus icon, go to ClickUp and say get a task. Great. Here we would get the task based on the task ID that triggered this workflow. So if we go back to the ClickUp trigger, we can find the task ID, and that's present here. And we can also include markdown description if we need to, but that's optional. Now again, we want to make sure that this gets posted through a specific person's account, and we need the actual ID of that account on Blotato. So I'm going to get that from the data table again. And let's first execute this task. So we've got the entire text content. And now I'm going to get the Blotato ID for a specific user. So I'm going to say this must match the following condition. Let's say all conditions, and it should be the same as the name of the person who approved this. So I'm going to say username. So as long as this is equal, we will get all those details. If I execute this, I get all of the IDs and the Blotato account ID that I need. And finally, in Blotato, I'd need to add all of those details. So let's create the Blotato credentials. And we need the API key. We can find that from the platform itself. And you'd be able to generate it as well as copy it. So I've got that copied, and I'll just paste it here. That should do it. When you save it, it'll get tested, and we're almost ready to go. We want to say that we want to post this on LinkedIn from a specific account by a specific ID. That ID is what we have from the data table. And what's the text is the text of the task description, which is the text content. I'm going to drag that here. So the post will read this. You can also have media URLs or schedule it, but we're going to leave this as is right now. Okay, I think I'm going to post it. Okay, and now we are actually ready to post it on LinkedIn. Let's see if this works. Yeah, let's see if this works. So it says it's executed successfully. I'm going to open my LinkedIn, and if you don't believe me, you can check it out for yourself too. But if I scroll down, I see that there's one post that I've created with the exact details that I've mentioned. And if I click the link, it should take me to my blog post, which works as well. And that's how you can build your workflows to repurpose your already existing blogs and convert them into a LinkedIn article. So the important idea here isn't just the LinkedIn automation, it's the pattern where we have an AI and then a human review, and then the automation continues from there. The human in the loop model makes the AI very reliable in business environments. So you get the speed of the automation, but without losing control. If you want to build similar workflows, whether it's for content, research, sales ops, or internal tools, Anytime is one of the easiest ways to do it. The workflow is linked in the description if you'd like to try. Thank you for watching.